The Simpsons have just killed off one of its oldest recurring characters who's appeared in hundreds and hundreds of episodes ever since season 1. So, who was it? Who did we say goodbye to for the final time in this week's episode, Cremains of the Day? Let's find out. So the episode opens in Moe's bar with the lads all watching an NFL game in London. And in case you didn't know, some of the NFL teams come to England to play special games. Games that are crazy expensive to go to, like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Anyway, Moe doesn't win his $1 bet, so he gets annoyed, so he tries to throw everyone out of the bar, but one of the guys refuses to budge even when poked with a broom, and that's because
Larry's dead.
In case you didn't know, this guy's called Larry and he's been hanging around on the show ever since the 3rd ever episode, Homer's Odyssey. So he's been around longer than the likes of Fat Tony, Professor Frink, Nelson, just to name a few. But I wouldn't blame you if you don't remember him, because in his 34 years on the show, he's only spoken around 2 lines in total. I mean, this YouTube compilation video showing off all of his best moments is only 2 minutes and 40 seconds long, and he's barely even in it. Ever since I started this channel back in 2020 and back when I mostly discussed theories, I used to get so many comments asking for videos on Sam and Larry, the 2 silent barflies. And I really did want to, but there just wasn't enough material to deep dive into them. And why would there be? They only really existed as background characters to fill out Moe's dive bar.
Hey everybody, Homer's back!
And out of the 2 of them, not one spotlight moment in any of The Simpsons' 765 episodes. So they are definitely an enigma, but not exactly an interesting enigma enough that they demanded their own video. Therefore, it makes total sense why the creators decided to kill off Sam or Larry. They just weren't losing anything by getting rid of one of them. Sad, but true. Anyway, getting back to the plot of the episode, and so Larry's funeral, the only people to attend were Homer, Marge, Moe, Carl, Lenny, and Larry's mum.
He died unloved in a bar.
A scene which then goes into a really sad musical cutaway of Larry being left out of the guys while they were all having fun.
All the lonely Larrys, they all come to an end.
This of course plays homage to the song and music video Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, and honestly it was a really interesting way to show the perspective of a character we've known for so long, but not really know. Also, this fantastic song has been stuck in my head ever since. And although the guys didn't really know anything about him, Larry used to tell his mom stories of how they were all best friends.
My Lawrence always talked about his best friends.
So she decides to ask them to do a eulogy for him, and of course they struggle to come up with anything significant.
You know who always caught the biggest fish?
Who?
I want to say Larry?
It's after the funeral that Larry's mother hands the guys his diary, with it containing a drawing of Larry hanging out with all of them in front of a beautiful waterfall. So, feeling bad that they never actually got to know Larry, the boys decide to spread his ashes at the Serenity Falls that was in the picture. Now, although I did really enjoy this episode, the one thing that really bothered me was the total absence of Sam. As spoken about before, Sam is the guy who wears the hat and the glasses and is usually always seen sitting next to Larry in Moe's bar. So by not including him really felt like an odd decision, seeing as they've mostly been glued by the hip for the last 35 years. For all we knew, they could have had a friendship that the other guys lacked, which could have been a really interesting premise, seeing as the entire episode is about friendship. It just felt like a glaring omission, and it did really bother me if you're gonna focus an episode on Larry without really mentioning the guy he's been sat next to for all this time. But anyway, I was evidently very confused by the lack of Sam, so I voiced it to Twitter, and shockingly, the showrunner Matt Selman actually replied to me. He said, "We talked about a throwaway joke to explain where Sam was, but we already did that with Barney. Sam couldn't go on the road trip, in that introducing essentially a new old character would have meant doing a different story." Before following up by saying there was probably something else clever we could have done. Also, side note, but as I'm reading this, I can't help but feel like this character right here.
What the hell are you talking about?
You're a lifesaver, Homer. I can't deal with these hardcore fans.
Oh, well, I know I'm a nerd. Anyway, I do totally get what Matt is saying here, and it definitely didn't ruin the episode by any means at all, but it was still a glaring omission for me because it could have lifted the veil a bit more on Larry, while giving nod to the only guy we could have imagined him actually being friends with. Also, I just want to say that Matt Selman is so nice, so awesome, and has been such a big supporter of this channel. He even took the time to write a blurb for my book Collecting The Simpsons that you can buy now on Amazon and on the 30th of April for my UK audience. And yes, I am so sorry to my British audience out there for such a long wait. But it wasn't just Sam. I feel that Barney was done a bit of a disservice too here. Like, to explain why he wasn't here, we got this brief cutaway.
Su pueblo por fin tiene agua potable.
And thinking about it, I don't think he's been properly utilised since his character stopped being sober back in 2003. So when he appeared on screen, I was like, oh yeah, of course, Barney, there he is. But if anything, this scene only made me realise that he's been repeatedly sidelined so many times in favour of the 4 other guys' friendship, which is something that was really cemented in the episode Saga of Carl. It is a shame because at one time he had a strong role and had such pivotal moments. He's also been shown to have a more sensitive side than you'd think, so in an episode basically confronting death, it could have been cool to involve him a bit more during their chats about it, which could have surprised the group further. So I say justice for Barney. Now I know I'm going on a massive tangent here and getting ahead of myself, so let's get back to the episode. So, the guys go on a road trip without Barney to the waterfall and they spend a night in a motel. And it's in this motel where they discuss what they think happens after death. So, Homer thinks that he'll be sharing some buffalo angel wings with Larry up in heaven, then he thinks that Larry is a ghost, and Moe, he just triggered me right down to my core.
It's just a sad, silent void. Nothing. And it's not even a regular nothing. It's an absence of everything, huh?
Anyway, thoughts of impending doom aside, the next morning, Homer's in the bathroom where he accidentally knocks over Larry's urn to discover that there are sapphires inside. Moe walks in and in a moment that really made me laugh out loud, he shoves a glass cup into his eyeball to inspect them. He believes that Larry was probably a gem smuggler and hid them in his butt just before he died.
All I know is Larry is dead and we are rich.
So, Moe encourages Homer to keep this a secret from Lenny and Carl, which Homer thinks about and decides that it can actually help his financial burdens like his family, and all of a sudden, up they come, along with Ralph. Which poses the question, are they hinting that Homer is really Ralph's biological father? Maybe he's giving alimony to Sarah Wiggum, or maybe even hush money to keep his illegitimate child a secret, or maybe it's just a joke and I'm completely overthinking it. Yep, definitely that last one. The guys continue their trip, but during the drive the urn falls out of the back of the car and out spills Larry and the sapphires. Naturally, Lenny and Carl are furious that Moe and Homer tried to keep Larry and his sapphires a secret.
There were sapphires in Larry's urn?
And you knew?
But all of a sudden, a sheriff turns up to arrest them.
Y'all are under arrest for violating Section 545 of the U.S. Commerce Code. Jewel smuggling.
The officer decides to shove the men into the front of the car, and we learn that the officer's real name is Mickey No Loose Ends and is actually working for Fat Tony, which means that Larry was also probably working for Fat Tony too. He tells Mickey to let the men go, but the thing about Mickey No Loose Ends is that he doesn't leave any loose ends.
They know nothing.
Got it. No loose ends.
And in a scene that really made me laugh, Fat Tony says that he really needs to pay a bit more attention to the nicknames of his guys before immediately saying this.
Now, can you go pick up Connie at the airport, the Bruno wife banger?
Hey, with pleasure.
And I've said it once and I'll say it again, but I love Fat Tony. So, Mickey pulls over and goes to open the frunk where he's met with Homer's flare gun, but the force of the gun only propels the car right off a cliff so it dangles over the edge. And realising that the counterweight of them together is enough to balance the car, the guys then state that one person can jump out to save themselves.
So any one of us could save themselves and doom the rest?
No!
But instead, they decide that if they all jump together, they might just survive. All except for Homer, that is.
You don't jump on 3, you jump on go! 1, 2, 3, go!
But just before the car careens into the bottom of the cliff, Larry's urn comes to the rescue by rolling down, getting lodged in the wheel, and therefore saving Homer.
Larry saved your life.
It's here where the guys realise that they have in fact arrived at Serenity Falls, but the view doesn't quite look like Larry's picture. And with that, Homer realizes that Larry actually really wants to be right under the Duff sign at Moe's so he can hang out with his best beer buds forever and ever. Oh yeah, and also Moe now has the sapphires inside his stomach. So there's that. While not every joke worked for me in this episode, and I think that Sam's omission was just too glaring to completely ignore, I did still enjoy it overall. At the end of the day, Larry was just one of those forgettable characters we occasionally saw in the fringes of the background, but what I loved about this episode was that it asked, who is Larry? We learned that he was a jewel smuggler working for the biggest crime boss in Springfield, but also he was a very lonely man who longed to be seen and accepted by Homer and his pals. Season 35 as a whole has been really awesome with how it's approached different themes while experimenting with how they're being executed. I'm actually really looking forward to doing a full retrospective on this season once it's over. But what did you think of this episode, and do you think they should have really killed Larry off? Let me know in the comments below. Also, big thank you to my lovely Flying Hellfish patrons. Your continued support really does help me buy my editing software and continue to make my videos better and better. Thank you so much, and I'll smell you later.